G'day everyone, Duckville here. We're going to watch a couple of games. This is actually going to be a series starting from now. A best of 5. This is from a recent Korean tournament which took place. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was a couple of months back. But it was in the slightly older patch, the 1.4.2, so bear in mind the various changes that have occurred since then. They won't be applicable now, such as snipe and that sort of thing. But anyway, we're going to have a look at these games here. This is going to be between a Zerg and a Terran. Starting out at the right-hand side of GSL Duel site is our Zerg player in the blue. His name is TSLMamuri. He is one of the very new players on the TSL team. You probably haven't heard of him unless you're QXC, or unless you're a hipster or something like that. He's he's one of the new Zerg players who is up and coming. Still, I'm pretty sure like on the StarCraft 2 equivalent of a B team at the moment for TSL. But he's going to be starting out here doing a good little scout, just checking out to see if there are any proxy ranks, but I doubt there will be. So his opponent over on the left-hand side, in the very nice green side of Duel site, is BKShield. He's just your average amateur player on the Korean server in the Masters League, although. So he's definitely not someone who is in a famous team just yet, but he's definitely a great Terran player, so we'll see how he goes here today. So, as I said, IPSL, this is a tournament which is run over on the Korean server and had some really good names in it. Had Dragon, formerly of Slayers. Of course, I did a couple of casts just recently with DTG Sickness, who was also part of one of the newer IPSL seasons that was played. And of course, there was also Zen Extreme. You guys should know about him. He played in the GSL just recently, and also had a go in the GSL qualifiers a couple of seasons back as well. He also played in this tournament as well. So I do have some more players, and more casts from this tournament. I'm only going to be doing this one particular match set, as I said, best of 5 between these two players. So I'm going to do this one and then the grand final as well, which we'll get to after this game is complete, after this set, has completed. If you do want to see some more, let me know. And thank you, of course, to Vanity, the IPSL promoter, publicist dude who was had a look and saw that I did those other casts from the IPSL that was sent through to me, and said, "Hey Duck, you want to do some more of these?" And I said, "I sure do," because it's always good fun watching Korean players, as I'm sure everyone can agree with. They're very, very much more aggressive than foreigner players. Foreigner games will generally go a little bit longer from time to time, and you can see lots of crazy micro action and that sort of thing here in Korean games. So this will be a lot of fun. And interestingly, we didn't actually start out with a bunker rush or anything like that from BKShield, but he is going to go for a Reactor Hellion expand. Very standard sort of opening here for Terrans these days. Picking up that factory in nice timing, moving the bunker away. He hasn't paid, sorry, not the bunker. Imagine if both bunkers could float. That'd be a bit scary. But moves the racks away, hasn't paid its rent, and then the factory takes over and is going to pump out a couple of Hellions. We'll see how many are going to be created. I don't think it'll be too many. It's not always the standard sort of thing to see too many of those, unless you get another reactor, and you can get that dual factory reactor Hellion build coming out, and all sorts of crazy stuff happens. But 2 Hellions pop out, say hello to the Ling, and he's so scared that he just burns up, and then a couple more Hellions are on the way. We've got the racks getting started here. Another factory also on the way, so perhaps we may see something of the mech variety out of Shield. We'll have to find out in just a minute. Meanwhile, the Hellions creeping over to the opposite side of the map. They're going to poke into the natural here of Mamuri and actually get past the spine, which was attempting to re-burrow in a better position and get inside and get a good look at what's happening here. They may get a couple of shots off against some of these drones as well, but it doesn't look like they're going to get anything done because the Lings already have speed and they were all over that situation. So they have cleared that up. Mamuri has only gone on to 1 gas just at the moment. We can see that he only has 1 drone in that extractor as well, so it looks as if he may just try and drone up quite heavily right about now, perhaps even take a 3rd. You can see that he is just running around the map trying to see if there are any extra Hellions he needs to clean up or any proxy buildings, anything like that, which can be a bit scary. These Marines are about to have the fright of their life. They get surrounded by the Lings and picked off straight away. And, oh wow, it is actually going to be some extra Hellions. We've got Blue Flame coming here. The Hellions blocking up the ramp, saying no to these Lings, and the Lings have to run away. Blue Flame on the way, plus extra Hellions. So this is going to be a very Hellion-centric opening here from Shield. He's going to make sure he gets a lot of map presence here. You can do a little bit of damage into the natural if you do get inside and get onto those drones. We'll see how far he does get. Of course, this natural is a bit open on some of the sides. You can get around the back here. You could probably just sneak past this one spine crawler and get around to the back of the mineral line there. But a couple more spine crawlers now coming up from Mamuri, so he's going to try and make sure he is defended. A couple more Hellions not actually joining up with the rest of the group just yet, but Shield is going to just, he's going to try and see what he can get done. Blue Flame not done just yet, perhaps a little bit of an incorrect move there by Shield. Mamuri catching a bunch of those Hellions and taking them down quite easily. That was quite an easy grab for him, just running through the tall grass here. Oh, in fact, sorry, that's not tall grass, that's like volcanic smoke that's coming out of the ground there. But they did surprise the Hellions and get a good surround and kill most of them off. A few remain, and we'll head back to town just to see if they can get repaired. More and more Hellions coming out here. I'm still not exactly sure what the plan is from Shield. He is getting, there you go, there's the plan. We don't even need to worry about it. 2 more factories going down. This is definitely going to be mech. We've got an armory also going down just behind the mineral line as well. He's got a whole bunch of these Hellions out now. They can probably take care of any sort of amount of Lings that are on the map. And speaking of Lings, Mamuri going to get a good run by into the natural expansion here. SCV's almost undefended. A couple of the Hellions trying to get some damage done. Looks as if the rest of the Hellions are going to slip inside. Some Banelings on the ramp getting disposed of quite quickly. Some of the Hellions taken down. Drones trying to run away. That is a big conga line of drones. The Hellions going to try and chase after them if they can, but beautiful stop micro from Mamuri, keeping some of the drones alive for the time being. No Queens blocking up the ramp. Perhaps a bit of a micro mistake there from Mamuri. And the drones are getting absolutely slaughtered here. We can see a big line of charcoal drone there. That is no good at all for Mamuri. We'll check out the drone count in just a second, but the Hellions are finally mopped up. And just looking at the workers killed, 14 down there for Mamuri. That is no good for him at all. Meanwhile, looks as if Shield did take a few hits of his own. He did lose. He's got 9 losses in total, and now a bunch of Lings now running across. Does abandon the natural expansion for now. Almost getting the Lings inside. That would have been trouble town for Shield if they did get inside, because the Hellions are only just getting back to base now. But an interesting exchange between both of these guys. Of course, Shield going for mech is going to need as much gas as he can get, because he's and without that natural straight away filling up the gas tank, he's going to be a little bit slower with his push out here. Mamuri, of course, needing to resupply a lot of these drones. He did also need to get a couple of overlords out there just to make sure he wasn't capped. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but he's also going to have a bit of a problem with these Hellions out on the map. Roaches are ready, so it's not as if he doesn't have anything to defend, and of course he's still got a whole bunch of these Lings out, but he will need to worry perhaps a bit more about droning for the time being. Speaking of which, just having a look at the harvest account, we've got a Mamuri on 49, about to crank out a couple more of those as well, and looks as if Shield with his 4 factories is on 32 SCVs. Of course, he does have mules to help out with that. The armory now spinning up on level 1 to vehicle weapons. The orbital command landing, is that a bit in the wrong spot? I think maybe it is. I don't know. But we'll check that in just a minute. Mamuri just trying to poke around the map at the moment, just making sure he gets some creep spread out. Now, as Mamuri probably knows by now, there is going to be some mech on the way. He probably assumed from the fact that there were about 70 billion Hellions that came out that there are at least 2, maybe more factories. And now with these tanks down, he's definitely going to be aware of that. So what's he need to do? He needs to take another expansion. He's going to take this 3rd. Perhaps he could even look at taking the 4th over here. In fact, there you go. Bam. I should be playing. Let's get Mamuri off. I'll play. My Zerg level is probably about gold, but I tell you what, I know how to expand, and anyone who's watched my stream knows that I know how to expand without actually keeping the expansions alive. So anyway, Mamuri just trying to get some more map control back. Of course, the Hellions fantastic for keeping your map control alive, because they can take care of those lings, as we've seen time and time again. They can also just run straight away from the roaches, and roaches without legs, without speed, we used to call it zealots with legs back in the Brood War days, was they're going to be a bit slow, so there's no way they're going to be able to catch up to those Hellions. Now, the creep spread from Mamuri has been generally quite decent. He obviously got denied over the left side here when those Hellions came across, but he is starting that back up again. We've got 3 tumors out here active on the left side. We've got a 1 across to the right-hand side, and it's probably going to be a few more, I would suspect. And moving out these spine crawlers, I really do like that he's just moving these out. Wants to make sure that the Hellions cannot freely roam around. If they're going to try and come across this side of the map, they are going to get poked in the eye, and anyone driving a car will know that if you get poked in the eye while driving, that's not good at all. But it looks as if Shield is going to perhaps push out here. He does need to repair up some of those Hellions. They did take a little bit of fire from the roaches when they tried to go across to the top side of the map. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is not actually in the right spot, but I'm sure Shield is not too phased about that right now. What he is phased about is pushing up to the top side of the map. We've got a total of, how many... There we go, we got 8 tanks. We got a couple of Thors as well to help with any possible air combat that will need to be engaged there. And it looks as if Mamuri is getting prepared. He does have a lot of roaches, which are generally quite useful against this mech combo. The problem is going to be getting to these tanks. These tanks are beautifully positioned across from the chasm, which means that the roaches will have a hard time getting to them. And there you go, they are actually getting blasted apart there by the tanks sitting at the top side. I don't think this base is going to survive for too long. This is why you want to take that 4th base very quickly as the Zerg, because if you're going to lose one of the bases, which generally can happen when you're facing a mech army, you need to have a backup. And I would not be surprised if we see Mamuri perhaps even take this other one across to the side. He needs to make sure he's taking advantage of the fact that this mech army is very immobile. As we can see, the Thors are very slow, the tanks have to siege and unsiege to get into position, the Hellions have to stick with the tanks, otherwise they will get obliterated. And so you need to take advantage of that sort of thing when you are playing against mechs. So would like to see if Mamuri's going to take this base. He's doing a good job scouting around the map, making sure that he's taking care of any of these bases. But hello, we've got the roaches doing their submarine impression. They're going to pop up right underneath these tanks, and perhaps maybe we go for that door. But here they come, popping out of the ground. They do dispose of one of the tanks quite quickly, but there are so many tanks there, and the Thor also doing quite a lot of damage. It looks as if the tanks will be removed eventually, but there are still 4 to the top side, and I don't think Mamuri's going to have any luck getting rid of the rest of those tanks. And now being chased after by Shield, he's trying to catch up with these burrowed roaches here, and they pop out of the ground. Some more roaches from the side. These guys do have 1-1, so they do survive a little bit longer against the tanks, but they do eventually win the battle. But have they won the war? That is the question. Losing that 3rd base very quickly is not the greatest thing there for Mamuri. He's getting up the gas at the, what was the 4th, is now the 3rd base here. He's also going to try and get some more upgrades going. He's got +2 to missile attacks on the way. Probably see a Carapace, there it is as well. And he's just going to try and make sure he stays in this one. Maybe needs to look at moving towards Hive Tech very soon. That's another big factor of playing against mech, is that you don't want to have to deal with tanks with like a big push of tanks, which is probably going to be the next thing that Shield's going to go for with no Broodlords, because that's virtually the only way that you can easily deal with a mech-based army. Now, here we go. It looks as if Shield is about to prepare. He's now got a huge total of tanks this time. He's got 11 tanks in the mix here. Only 1 Thor. I think he's realized that there is no muta threat just yet. The Spire is only just started now, only about 1/3 of the way done. Infestation Pit is also complete, however, no Pathogen Gland starting just yet. It looks as if Mamuri is probably going to save up just a little bit longer. The problem he's going to have is that there is no way to defend that base, but Mamuri has decided it's counter-attack time. He's going to push in here, try and get some of these SCVs before they can escape, and is now going to push up the ramp. He should be able to bust in. If he can get on top of these production facilities, he may be able to do a good trade here, but the problem is that the mech army is already pushed across. He's keeping Shield, he's keeping the tanks in unsiege mode, Pong Pong mode as we sometimes call it. He's now just going to push all the way up through the top here. I would not be surprised if these SCVs come along to buffer and also repair as well. Always good to have those SCVs with a big group of units like that. There is a Rax floating up towards what was the 3rd is now the 4th, or perhaps the 3rd again. I don't know. Don't really care, but siege tanks now going to town on this natural expansion of Mamuri. Meanwhile, inside Mamuri's base, we can see that he has caused a lift on all of those big important buildings from Shield. So Shield is just trying to do what he can with his last remaining units. Mamuri, interestingly, is going to need to get something to take care of the air if he actually wants to have a hope of dealing with this. But he probably could get a few more roaches out. Perhaps if he brings the roaches back, there is no detection just at the moment. If he can keep a roach perhaps underneath the orbital command on both of these orbital commands, and then burrow the roaches, bring them underneath this big mech army, and then try and go for that burrow attack again. He's like a shark, just burrowing underneath the units, coming up from underground, and then taking care of the tanks. He may be able to claw this back. I'm just a little bit worried about how he's doing it at the moment. Trying to base trade with the Terran who's just going to float when you've only got roaches is not a fun idea at all. The drone's having a burrow party over to the right-hand side of the map, but we'll see what Mamuri is going to do here. We've got drones being fried inside the main. There are a couple of roaches still burrowed inside as well. They're going to just bide their time for the moment here. As I said, the big problem that Mamuri has is that he has no way to deal with the air. But one Mutalisk is on the way. Here it is, the one hero Mutalisk that could save the day, depending on how Mamuri moves forward from now. In fact, nope, sorry, there are a couple more Mutalisks out, so he could definitely send them across. So you'd want to do that as soon as possible. This orbital command burning down is going to be a big help to Mamuri. We'll see if he's going to be able to take advantage of the fact that there is no detection. We'll probably see the roaches start sliding across from now. The lair does go down. The tanks do have +2 to their weapons, so keep in mind they do quite a lot of damage when they engage. And Shield is going to be moving his buildings across. It looks as if, yep, he's finally moving the buildings across now. He needs to get these in range of the Thor, because if the Thor does not protect these, he's going to lose the game straight away. And not to mention the fact Mamuri has got this base down towards the southern side. He's looking at a supply of 130 to 73, and I think Mamuri's going to flip this around a little bit. With those Mutalisks up in the sky, if he can keep those alive and deal with these floating buildings, especially that orbital command there, he should be able to deal with this. This is not actually going to be too bad. The tanks now inside the main, just dealing with the last remaining buildings in here. And the Thor going to town on some of these overlords. Shield now pushing back across. He knows he does have to get some damage done, not to mention protect the main base, which is now floating across, slowly floating. And there are a lot of burrowed banelings under here. We'll see if Shield is going to trip all of those, because if he does, it could do quite a lot of damage. And here we go, walking over, and there we go. Banelings being popped all over the place, and there go the roaches as well, moving inside. A little bit surprised he hasn't borrowed those, but that did a lot of damage there. The tank's in the red, and now, in fact, the Thor is done, so that is actually it. There is no way that Shield can win this game now with the Mutalisk in the sky, and there is a GG. So game number 1 going to Mamuri there, TSLMamuri, with a good move to bring out a few Mutalisks late in the game and just biding his time. That's one big key thing about a base race. If you're in that situation where you can get a couple of units out to try and swing the tide for you, just bide your time. You don't need to sort of get all fluttery and try and run into a big group of sieged up tanks. Just bide your time, pop some banelings on top of a Thor, and then you're good to go. So we will go into game number 2 from the IPSL. This is a round of 4, by the way. That's why it's a round of that's why it's a best of 5. We'll go into game number 2 in just a second and see if Shield can grab a game back, or if Mamuri is going to continue on this winning streak.